Leadership succession is one of the biggest challenges facing today's CPA firms. Today I've invited Katie Thomas to discuss this important topic facing our industry. Katie is the president and CEO of Honkamp. Welcome, Katie.
Thanks, TJ. Nice to be here.
Well, Honkamp and McGuire Sponsel go way back. I cannot believe, Katie, it was May of 2011 when my first trip to Dubuque, Iowa, to meet you and your colleagues. And so very much appreciate all the confidence that you all have placed in us over the years.
I can't believe it's been that long. It feels like we've known each other forever.
Yes. We've changed a little bit. Our kids are grown, and things we talk about now are much different than we talked about in 2011. But Katie, obviously Honkamp is an extremely successful firm and has experienced a lot of growth, and I have a lot of respect for how you all, not just how you serve your clients, but how you all are structured. And so as we were talking internally about some of the issues we'd often try to tackle during Let's Talk Tax, I just wanted to talk to you about leadership. And so I just thought maybe I could pose some questions to you and we have a conversation today. But one of the things the top questions I have is, why has leadership development become such a critical issue in the CPA industry today?
Well, I think that it seems more critical now than it ever has been for a few reasons. One of the biggest is that we're still going through a wave of retirements for partners and senior leaders, and there's really a shortage of talent to replace the long-term leaders. And I think the other big thing is with advances of technology, so many of the tasks that some of the older generations, ourselves included, spent years learning and perfecting are automated. So our younger professionals today are being tasked with becoming trusted advisors and effective team leaders so much earlier in their careers, and they don't have the luxury of the decades of experience to develop those leadership skills like some of the older generations have had.
Absolutely. I think, obviously we go to conferences and we read a lot of industry publications about private equity and consolidation. So I think for firms that have chosen to stay independent, I think the leadership challenges are just an extremely large obstacle to face, because you're right, there has been this exit of talent for one reason or the other. People that maybe have left the profession prematurely, they've gone to private or gone to other things. But it's a very interesting season within the CP industry, because I think it's a great opportunity for people that really want to take ownership in their careers and see an opportunity. But for others, they just can't see the vision. And I think at McGuire Sponsel, even though we're not the size of firm, we're about 110 people, so we're not the size Honkamp is, but we try to spend a lot of time really trying to help answer the why to our young leaders, why we're doing this, what the opportunity is, because they don't teach that in school, and they don't understand that there's so much more than being able, as just doing a tax return or answering a technical question. There's so much other development that they've got to take ownership of, but we as a firm have got to kind of light the path for them.
And I'm hopeful that the technology will actually help people stay in the profession. I think when they're able to experience the why a little earlier, when they're able to work directly with clients and see the impact of their work, that'll make the job more fulfilling. And we'll have more people that want to stay in the profession, because it is a great profession of helping people. But there will definitely be some challenges along the way to accelerate those leadership skill development paths.
How have you assigned that technology challenge in your firm? Have you brought some of those younger leaders in to participate in those in the technology investigation and implementation?
Yep, absolutely. We've been talking a lot about that this year, and I think technology in the past has lived within our technology group, and they've really managed the software, and they keep the lights on and the computers running and all of the things. But our message recently in the last year or so has been, it can't be just that group. It's got to be the people that are working in the service lines, and they have to be the ones driving the bus. And so we put together innovation groups in our different service lines that are tasked with exploring different options, whether it's a new software or trying new processes, or really trying to spend some time thinking and developing and learning.
No, I completely agree. That's been our experience here, Katie, as well. We have been very fortunate to have some young people step up in our respective practice lines and really take the opportunity to establish their presence and their, if you will say, their relevance in our firm, advancing technology. I think of a few people in our firm alone that have really kind of identified a need, because frankly, at my stage of my career, it's interesting to me, but it's not a passion, and something I'm not very proficient on. While somebody that's 27, 28 years old may see this as a great opportunity for me to put my thumbprints or stamp on McGuire Sponsel, or in your case, Honkamp. And if you with all this technology, okay, obviously in our industry it's changed so much, and we see for a firm like Honkamp, obviously there's been consolidation from bigger firms and other firms in the area, the geographic areas you serve. Has this created new set of expectations from clients in terms of what they want from their CPA firms or what they expect from firms?
Yes, I think that the client expectations have definitely changed, and this has been happening over time. We've been talking about the shift from compliance to advisory for a long time, but I feel like it's really been accelerating, and clients don't want us as accountants to be historians. They really want us to be able to provide them with real-time strategic advice. They want us to be industry experts who are forward looking and can help them grow their business, and then also help them use the latest technology, because our clients have the same technology issues that we do. I think the clients don't care how efficient or inefficient we are with our time. They don't care about the billable hours. They care about the value that we're adding. And so I think that shift started a long time ago, but it's really accelerated with technology replacing some of those, I say, less value added things that the profession used to do.
Sure. Well, I think they're always hungry for whether it's tax saving ideas or future strategies. We just had a situation actually just yesterday. We have a client that we've served. Their CPA firm, didn't bring them an idea, and they're frustrated with it. And it's just, it dawned on me. It's like, wow. And I was just preparing obviously for this recording today, and I was thinking, well, 10 years ago, I don't think that client would have ever worried or concerned. But there's always different entities, different people coming to these clients with different ideas. Some of them are very valid, and some of them are not valid or not applicable to their business. And I think that's the sweet spot a CPA has within the overall economy, if you will, is to say, hey, we can solve these problems. We can come to them, and not just with just a simple tax return or an audit, but so many other advisory services that you mentioned that you can look out for your clients and advise them on the best solutions.
And it's important for us to be in contact and talking with our clients on a regular basis, because if we're not, in the past it was other firms that would be, but now it's the technology. If you're not there in front of your clients and they don't feel comfortable asking you, they're going to go ask Copilot or ChatGPT, and they oftentimes will get the wrong answer. So it really is a client service for us to stay in front of them and have those active conversations.
You bring up a great point, Katie, because you think about 5 years ago, we didn't have to argue with ChatGPT, and now we get calls from clients. Yeah, I looked up this. I'm like, well, that's not necessarily wrong, but they're missing a lot of context to what need to be, how you qualify or what's to be included. What leadership skills do you think are important today that weren't? Obviously, we talked about technology, but what leadership skills do you feel that weren't as important 10 years ago that are important today?
I think that one of the most important skills that is needed today is agility. And with that, being skilled at change management, because along with the technology, change is happening at a faster pace today than it ever has before. So you need to be able to know how to pivot quickly, how to make quick decisions, but then also to get your teams to pivot. I think digital fluency is very important. I think in the day and age of technology, you have to stay on top of what the market is doing. And you also need to be excellent at communicating. So especially when your staff or your clients aren't always meeting with you in person, now things are much more virtual or remote sometimes than they used to be. So you've got to be an excellent communicator. And I think you need to have emotional intelligence and lead with empathy.
Yeah. I think that communication is so key, Katie. I think what we try to explain to our people is reciprocate the whatever platform that clients communicating, reciprocate that. That's hard for some of these young people. They want to live and die by a Teams chat, an email, or a text. Well, you still have business owners that want to talk to you. They want to talk to you and they want to jump on a phone call. And we had a situation, we're not perfect firms. We strive to be better every day, but we had a situation recently that a client called one of our project managers, and that project manager, and I talked to the project manager because the client called me, and I said, no problem. Actually, I know they're in field work right now. They'll be in the car driving back to Indianapolis. I'll have them give you a call. Well, sure enough, half an hour, I talked to this PM, and half an hour later, he sends an email to the client. And I'm like, you're in the car. Call the client. If that's their preferred means of communicating, reciprocate that. And still, and I still get calls on clients today that, we'll meet via a Teams or a Zoom platform, and I offer to go out and meet them in person. It's such a difference maker. And that's what we're trying to show our young talent to say, hey, always be willing to go out there and meet in person, because you want to have that connection with your client. And there's Teams are very efficient and Zoom's efficient, but nothing can replace that face-to-face interaction with the client.
Absolutely.
And it's tough because we're busy and stretched so thin, and the poles of work-life balance and everything else, but still being in front of that client and speaking to that client just for a few minutes is incredibly valuable. Obviously I've been out in the industry for many, many years, served early years was in public accounting. And, I think you go back to the 90s when I came out of school and was in my early years, it was always about your great technical work is what propelled you into leadership. But as McGuire Sponsel has grown, the number of firms we now serve, we see people outside of that traditional tax genius or proficient auditor vaulting to positions of leadership within a firm. How do you approach that within Honkamp in terms of evaluating kind of that next generation leadership, empowering them, and then obviously rewarding them with greater responsibilities within Honkamp?
So I was just having a conversation with another leading partner this week, and we were talking about hiring people outside of the industry that maybe we wouldn't have hired in the past that have those soft skills, if you will. They can communicate, they are good advisors. So I think we're more open to that than we were in the past. But I do still think that even though being technically an expert doesn't automatically make you a great leader, a lot of times the best leaders are technical experts. If you look at some of the great companies, the CEO of Walmart started his career as an hourly associate in the store. The CEO of General Motors started on the assembly line. So sometimes being a great leader means that you have a very deep understanding of the business, and sometimes that can come from the technical side. So we're spending a lot of time evaluating how do we add those skills to our technical people earlier and see just because you are a technician doesn't mean you can't be a leader, but it's definitely not automatic. And there's, especially in accountants, sometimes there's a little bit of work to do around that topic, but we're trying to really develop leaders much earlier.
Do you see any particular behaviors in future leaders that really inspires you and your other firm leaders to want to promote those people or advance them?
I've seen so many young people recently that are really just excited to be at work. And it felt like during COVID, we had this period where maybe that wasn't so, but I'm really hopeful and inspired by the next generation of leaders that we have coming in. They are inquisitive. They volunteer for things. They stay late. They want to do the work to learn. They want to develop relationships with clients. You can tell a lot about a person by watching them in a room. So I love to see people interact when we have internal meetings here and see the people that are outgoing, see the people who reach out and start a conversation with other people, and really just work to build that culture in the firm.
I appreciate you saying that, Katie, because we're in the same situation. We have some really, really strong people that want to be in the office. They're willing to grind out the hours and serve clients and step up. And we do things during tax season, and we have obviously some discretionary bonus programs that are available for our production staff. And to see the fun they have and some of the competition. I was on a call earlier today, and one of our up and coming individuals, she just made senior, and she was talking about how she takes a lot of pride in that she does more field work. And she did more field work this past tax season than anybody else on her team, and that was a source of pride for her. And I think sometimes you don't want to take those people for granted, because that's the mentality I always had. Nobody was going to outwork me. But the challenge is, this is kind of my leading statement is to get to this point, Katie. How do you handle the conversation with Honkamp when you have somebody young and they've almost gone and jumped somebody that's been there longer? Because that's the problem that we have as a growing organization is you have those people that are really spirited and they're working hard, and you may have somebody that's been there 3 or 4 years longer and they're very proficient and they're climbing the ladder steadily, but then you got this absolute rock star coming up behind them that you have to vault ahead of them. And while the firm, you're big enough, we're big enough to create opportunities for both of them, there's sometimes that rub is that, wait a minute here, I've been here longer. Why is this person ahead of me? how have you, I know there's no perfect formula or perfect solution for that, but how have you all handled that within Honkamp?
What we have tried to put in place in the last years, we've really tried to focus on competencies for all of our different levels. And so we've tried to make it really clear what is the difference between a staff and a senior and manager, a manager and partner, all the different levels. So people have a really clear understanding of what they need to do to be at that level. So it's not just, I've been here for 5 years, I should be manager. So we're trying to have those conversations, and we also do career advisor meetings where we meet with our staff on an individual basis a few times throughout the year to just talk about their career, not about their performance, not about how they did on an audit or their quality, but really about what do they want out of their career and how can we help them get there. So hopefully those individual conversations are helping us understand how to help our staff get to the level that they're in. And sometimes it's hard when you do have someone that just accelerates above someone else, but hopefully we're having those individual conversations along the way and can help each person get to where they want to be.
Yeah, we've had to get better at having hard conversations. You know, we hired our first chief people officer in early 25 because, frankly, I think our practice leaders, as strong as they are, as competent as they are, when it came to the evaluations, they probably weren't as direct or productive as they needed to be, and that forced some frustrations because we go out and we hired a chief people officer and we got better at that because, to your point, we were not. Yes, we want to grade you on your performance, but we also care about your career. And we want to make sure those are our expectations are aligned with your desires. But it was interesting when we did that, starting in 2025, some people were like, oh, I've never gotten a 2 on an evaluation. You know, I'm like, well, that's not your fault. That's our fault. And fortunately, those conversations led to a lot of those people still staying. And they're being productive, and some of them stepped up. But it's something that as a business we had to get better and more comfortable with having those sometimes direct conversations, because just because you get a bad score doesn't mean you're a bad employee. We're just trying to help you be better and help you achieve what you want to achieve, and really where you can bring the most value to the firm.
We also added a director of people and talent recently within the last year or so, and that's really helped us to teach our partners and our managers how to frame those conversations, because I think there was a period of time where there was a staff shortage and the industry in general was afraid to tell people what they really needed to work on or to really hold people accountable. But if you've done it the right way, it is really a growth opportunity for those people. And we've got some great success stories that we've shared internally with people who weren't doing so well. And we sat down and had honest conversations with them about what they needed to do, and they've completely turned around. And I think some of the best and hardest lessons that I've learned in my career are when I had to be told that I didn't do a good job or I needed to work harder or do something differently. And so I think those, if you have those conversations in the right way, they can make a huge positive impact on people.
Katie, I can specifically remember tax season 2002, which is a long time ago, I know, but there was a partner that I was working on something, and I mean, he shot it straight with me, and it's exactly what I needed, and it's still to this day, it's embedded in the back of my mind at all times, because it was like, I'm not going to make that mistake again. Yep. So with that, what are the common mistakes emerging leaders make to perhaps for you to question kind of, okay, do I have the right person, can they really be a leader?
So one mistake that I see a lot is that young leaders sometimes are very enthusiastic about wanting to show how much they know. And so they talk too much, they don't listen. And I think that I've coached some people that being a leader doesn't always mean that you're the smartest person in the room, and it doesn't always mean that you have the right answers, because clients and the staff that you manage don't care how much you know. They want to know that you care about them and that you'll get to the right answer. So I think that's the skill that a lot of people could improve on. And I think also communication and delegation. It's hard to go from being a doer to being a leader. And there's a fine line between dumping work on people that report to you and expecting them to do it without direction, and then micromanagement. So learning that fine line between supporting the people that you're delegating to and just passing off the work and walking away.
One of the things that I think of when I think of these mistakes is that the double standard. And I've seen that with some of our up and coming leaders is that they have a double standard, that they can leave to go to their kid's event or duck out early for an event, but by gosh, their people better not. And they're going to be really hard on them. And I have to, I'm the one, and I'm a pretty intense person, as you know, Katie, but I have to be the one, and one, I won't name names, but one in particular, I kind of got chuckling one day because this supervisor was all mad that their staff person was not here because they were handling their child, helping them with the child. But yet the day before, that supervisor was at an all-day baseball clinic with his son, but he was, and it was like, okay, what's the difference? It's the same. We've got to provide grace. I guess that's my point, is I think that's something that as I gotten older, the firm has gotten bigger, is you got to have grace with your people. And you got to allow them they're going to fail. They have to have the comfort that it's okay to try hard enough to fail, and we're going to be there as leaders to help them. And I tell people all the time, you're not going to get in a situation that I can't get you out of. Okay, we're not going to set you up. It's in our best interest not to set you up for failure. Okay, so we're going to be here to support you and empower you, but also give you the grace that when you make mistakes, we're going to be here to support you, teach you, and rectify the situation.
One of the biggest things I've tried to reinforce and I've tried to remember along the way is assume positive intent. So sometimes people just don't know what the expectations are, or they don't know when they're not meeting them. So if you have someone that is being a little too flexible with their time and then maybe not getting their work done, you have to assume that they have a positive intent and they're not doing things, maliciously, but have a conversation with them of, I understand you want to be at this event or you have this going on, but did you realize that this work didn't get done or we have a deadline? But having those conversations and having them early and often and not letting it get to a boiling point where it's a really bad situation.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, well, I know we're closing in on our time here, Katie, so I have a couple questions for you. What is one thing that you had told Katie Thomas 10 years ago not to worry about as you ascended to the president and CEO of Honkamp?
It kind of goes to the saying, don't sweat the small stuff. I have a tendency to do that. And so I wish that I would have learned that a little bit earlier. I've learned some lessons in the past several years that have made me put into perspective what is small stuff and what is something that you can overcome. So there isn't a lot that can't be fixed, especially in our line of work. And so I think it took me a long time to learn that lesson.
Yeah, mine would be enjoy the ride. I felt that I didn't, as the firm was growing, we started this thing on a kitchen table, and I look back now where the firm's at. I'm like, boy, I missed some eras. I missed some little generations of the firm because I was so busy trying to get to the next moment. I didn't enjoy the phase that we were at. And for us, having now 5 offices, I was in our Dallas office yesterday, and there's 14 people in the Dallas office, and you go in, I remember the whole firm was 14 people, and we all sat around and had lunch, and there's just things that as in leadership, I miss about certain phases, and I realized that I probably didn't enjoy that phase as much as I wish I would have. So interesting. But so if you were advising an up-and-coming person in Honkamp today, they came into your office and they said, okay, I want to be a partner. What should they begin doing today to achieve that goal?
I think one of the most important things that a person with partner aspirations needs to do is to act like a partner. They used to say, dress for the job that you want, not the job you have. So I think that we can encourage our managers to start to think like partners early on. So what does that mean? It means that your job is to continue the firm, right? So that's to bring in business so that we have work and we have revenue and business to continue, but it's also to grow and develop the staff. So once you get to a certain point it becomes your job to spend time growing others. And I think at that manager level, that's a crucial time when you can start to show your skills in developing others and in bringing business into the firm. So start doing those things that are expected of a partner to show that you have the potential. You don't have to be the best at it. You don't have to, be the biggest rainmaker, but show that you have potential and that you're interested. Because if you don't speak up for yourself and let your intentions be known, someone else might not do it for you.
Sure. No, I completely agree. I think mine would be inspirational to your team. I think I see some of our people that are growing, and they're growing rapidly. Their team's inspired by them. They have a lot of confidence. It's not a supervisory relationship; it's their peers. That they have a lot of confidence in that person, and they feel comfortable asking questions. And that's something that I see in a lot of our leadership group. We have different leadership. We have a couple different leadership academies that we foster throughout the year, and to see how those people grow in leadership to where their colleagues are going to them. They're not going to the partner or maybe the senior manager of their practice. They're going to that mid-level manager because they feel comfortable and they feel safe in coming and asking those questions. So, Katie, I really appreciate you spending time with me for a few minutes today. And as I said earlier, the relationship between our two firms is one that we don't take for granted and are very appreciative of. So congratulations on all your success and all the firm's success. So, and thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. It's been fun. Thanks, TJ.
Take care.